Today, Sea of Skins is a thing that Bees just made me think about. So now you do as well. It's like Sea of Thieves, but skin.
Maybe we shouldn't be allowed to talk to each other before the show starts.
Sweet. Man-made horrors exactly within my comprehension. Excellent. CS Skins is what Heather said. I thought she said Sea of Skins. I'm just going to lay that out for the chat.
Which honestly is a much more interesting thing we could talk about. Mostly because we can make up so much and also not say anything and watch everybody else make it up in their brains.
Yeah, that's where the skin witches come from.
Yes. Some sort of moil dumping ground. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to ChillPoint.
Very chill today.
The show where we, up until recently, talked about video games. And hopefully we will come back to talking about video games at some point soon.
Skin is just a costume. You wear it, and you know what? I got to do the checkpoint going live tweet because I generally do. And yesterday I asked how many stickers before it's just your skin.
Oh, you're right.
And it's not a sticker anymore. And nobody took me seriously. And I also didn't check after a few minutes, which means any comments that kept going on inundated Graham.
Children of Dune answers that. That is answerable.
Which one is that? Is that the second one?
That's the third one.
I didn't get that
How many
far.
stickers can you put on your skin until you just have a new skin and have superhuman running ability?
Is that because the stickers give you boosts?
I hate to ruin Children of Dune for everybody, but it's sand trout.
Oh, okay.
If you take sand trout and you stick them on your body,
Those aren't stickers.
I wouldn't call those stickers.
then what happens is when you get enough of them on your body, they start to actually kind of form together and like be a thing. And then if you cover your entire body in sand trout, you can run really fast and jump really high.
See, I will not
Cool.
be tricked
right?
into reading another Dune book. No. It's not going to happen.
It happens near the end.
You can't make it sound interesting.
No, it's very interesting. It has Laza tigers.
You said Dune was
Tigers that shoot
interesting,
lasers out of
and
their
I had to
eyes.
rage read that to get through it. And then
Rage.
I tried to read the second one, which
Rage read.
admittedly was better and easier to read, but I'm not doing it again.
There's a nude woman fighting with blades.
Especially when the only reason I read that first one in the first place was to understand your stupid memes, which, by the way, are not that deep. I could have just done the memes without reading the book.
We could have given you the cliff notes. It's true. Yeah.
I didn't need the cliff notes. Your memes are all about spice and blue eyes. It's not like it's hard.
Wow.
I'm combative now.
She could have watched the movie. Let's be fair.
Oh, I'm not watching that.
You watched the new movie then?
No,
Oh, it has throat singing.
I'm not watching that.
It's got such.
You can't make me.
All right.
I feel like that's got to be like a new, like a pretty solid like modern day diss.
Yeah.
Like your memes aren't as obscure as you think they are.
I checked the source material. Your
Yeah.
memes are not.
Yeah, your memes are not that deep,
Yeah.
man.
But memes are the memory of the deep.
Your memes only have a cursory understanding of the source material.
You just keep talking about sticking your hand in a box. It's not that scary.
God, I
There's
feel
no
like-
teeth in there.
If I was 20 years younger and had less personal control over myself, I probably would get a tattoo on my body that says "memes are a memory from the deep."
You can still do that.
It's true.
I am not 20, and I have way more personal control, even from
I
back
can't imagine.
then.
I mean, given some of the skin issues you have, I can't imagine a tattoo is going to be a fun experience for you.
Dude, yeah, the healing process would probably take like months and months. So, if even finished. Anyway,
hey, this. I forgot where I was in the intro.
hey everybody,
When we got
it's Chill
distracted.
It's ChillPoint where we talk
It's
about
ChillPoint.
memes
As far
and
as
we
you got.
get mad at each other.
Didn't even get to say your name.
I'm
This is
Paul. This is Heather.
Not Paul Atreides, just Paul.
And this is Beej. And
My name's not associated with that book at all.
and this is a show where we talk about video game news sometimes. And we also talk about the episode of ChillPoint that went up yesterday. give you some more background info on the stories.
Or not.
Some BTS.
That's true.
Sometimes we just tell you what story happened and then we go away because like this story covered it pretty well.
Yeah. Like for instance, there's a there's going to be a Japanese screenings of the Mario movie.
Possibly with or without subtitles.
It seems pretty likely they will be without subtitles.
Apparently, some of the entries like on the theater sites are like Japanese language Mario movie without subtitles.
Yes.
Is the title of the movie.
Very clear.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair for them to be clear that because it's one thing for us to be like, oh, we'll just go in and it'll be fine because it's whatever. We can probably pick out enough of what's going on by context.
Yeah.
Even if you haven't seen the movie, but somebody who doesn't know that is just like, oh, it's in Japanese, and goes in is like, where's the subtitles?
Yeah.
If you watch it in English like 2 or 3 times, you could probably just like do a running translation to somebody beside you.
Exactly.
They'll really appreciate that too.
Be sure to do Jack Black's voice.
What I don't understand is why I don't get to watch it in French.
Oh, actually, yeah, the French version did sound pretty
And
good.
I want it to be in black and white.
Like an art house movie?
Yes. I think there are many ways I could improve this movie that, by the way, I've not seen. I just have heard that it is fine.
It's just Unshi and Andalou. Like, anyway.
What I find fascinating about I find the terminology used in various stories, including ours, talking about this to be kind of interesting, in that it's like I've seen this called a Japanese dubbed version.
Yes.
I've also seen it called. I've also seen like language implying that this is like in the original Japanese.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like it's animation. It
It could have been anything.
So,
In fact, I actually am curious as to for CG whether they redo the lip flaps to match.
Pixar does.
I've watched foreign language Pixar movies.
Yeah.
And like signs will actually be changed they'll be in the correct language, like they won't be subtitled. It'll actually be, which is kind of mind blowing although it's not that surprising when it's CG, but it's kind of mind blowing.
If they went to the effort, yeah.
It's going to probably boil down to what did they plan to do when they first made the movie. So a lot of Pixar movies are probably made to be done in several regions while they're like making it.
Yes.
Or they have that intention of localizing it or whatever already. So you're going to have a thing where you have that set up as part of your making.
Yeah.
Whereas if they did a Pixar movie and then they said, hey, we've decided 3 years later that we're also going to put it in this other language, you might not get that happening because they're busy.
You just give it, well, at that point you give it to a dubbing house and you just let them redub it, and that's kind of how, like Disney has dubbing houses they work with.
And I mean, Illumination is,
French. Are they not?
I don't know.
Okay, anyway,
But
keep talking.
they're pretty big boys.
Yeah.
They're right up there. So I assume that that they would do something. But
I mean, typically we use the word dubbing to signify that that's not the original language.
right.
But I don't know, like in the case of how they're doing this, I wouldn't think there is necessarily an original language. If Illumination is also in charge of like a lot of the script writing, and even if they have to talk to Nintendo to get approval for script, then at that point you might actually say the original is actually English.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the original is English in the sense that that's what this was sort of marketed. It was marketed as an English movie,
Yeah, it seemed to be.
not as a
heavily-
Japanese movie.
In most of the marketing I've seen, it's only the English version where they keep going on and on about their cast list.
Yeah, there's that too.
And,
So
like,
it
But,
kind
I
of
mean,
And like all the posters for it are in English. Like even international posters, it says like the Mario movie, and then with like a subtitle
Yeah.
in whatever the local language is.
yeah.
So I feel like that's the Mario or the. But anyway, it's sort of an interesting this idea of like, you know, what's a dub when it's actually like an official thing.
Yeah.
And technically, it's a cartoon, so everything is, I guess, dubbed.
And yeah, well, and in a technical sense, I mean, any time that you add, any time that you're like when we refer to a dub in like the lay parlance, we mean that it's been like another language has been dubbed over top.
Right.
But when you talk about any movie that has like the audio track for it, you're like, well, how do I explain that this is the Japanese language version with English subtitles, or is it an English dub, like those kind of things? And it's like, well, Japanese dubbed isn't like they're reading the Japanese over top of the English in this case. But if you did send like King of the Hill off to Japan, which they do, and then you have the Japanese language version, yeah, you refer to it as a Japanese dub, and it's like, does that mean that we could really just call any language spoken thing, or does that actually screw up just the linguistics of it?
Yeah,
Now,
But,
I
yeah.
mean, maybe.
Sorry, now I'm just imagining that like
Boomhauer.
well that they have, you know, the there's the thing, you know, people make fun of in like early Pokemon and stuff where they replaced all the references.
Right.
They're like, we're gonna go get a hamburger instead of we're gonna go get you know, ramen
Onigiri or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. And then they're like, you know, eating stuff that is clearly not. I'm just
Yeah.
imagining that same thing, but like, I'm gonna sell this grill where we're going to cook some sushi.
Yes.
They actually do localization like that in CG movies, but because again that's a thing that's planned for, they swap out those items. Like
Right. Yeah.
it's Inside Out. There's like a thing
Right, not
about
broccoli.
about not eating broccoli, but culturally in Japan, broccoli's not a thing, but green peppers are. So they changed it to green peppers. Like
I mean, to be honest, like I'm not interested enough to, you know, go see it in Japanese because I don't know Japanese, but
or even English.
I would love to.
right.
I would like to see, and I'm sure it will be done. You know, like a comparative analysis, like if there's any quirks in the script that only become clear that are like, you know, when the translation goes, you can sort of see, oh, I see.
A hallmark of more recent dubbing and subbing has been you're more often than not you take the English dubbing script and you just pipe that into the subtitling. And so you're watching this thing in Japanese with English subtitles, but what you're actually seeing is the English dubbing script, which has sometimes taken some liberties in order to be able to fit into lip flaps.
Well, I mean, I think I've said before that my standard thing when watching subtitled or watching foreign language things on like Netflix or stuff is I watch the dub with the English subtitles.
Yeah.
With the idea being that combining those two pieces together results in something you get a better idea of what was intended.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they are dramatically different.
They can be,
Yeah.
but more recently I have noticed that the with anime anyway, that it is like, oh, we're gonna dub this thing. Okay, write the script out for the dub. What are we gonna do for subtitling? You've got it. It's your English dubbing script. Oh no, it's not entirely the same. It's different in a lot of ways. So if you were to watch certain animes, you would be animes. Why did I say anyway? If you watch certain anime shows, you would hear them say something in English and then see them in the subtitles say it as if it was just closed captioning. Because that's kind of what
Right.
they're using it for more than subtitling is. It's the closed caption
Yeah.
script.
I imagine, though, if there are any like interesting differences, there we'll see like a YouTube video up about that at some point. If you have signs and stuff.
Yeah, Americat just posted that apparently Miyamoto's saying that there is some differences. That
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
actually wrote the script separately.
Yeah,
Or not
so
separately, but
there will likely be a YouTube video up at some point that someone will go through that, and that might be interesting to watch.
unfortunately it'll probably be like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
I imagine it won't be like
YouTube video
that
essayists.
interesting. I mean, given what I've heard about the movie, I've heard that it's fine.
Yeah.
It's completely inoffensive.
Made $1 billion.
And it's made probably enough money that they will likely make another something.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's sort of in the same realm as like the Sonic movie or
And a lot of people
other
hope it's Donkey Kong.
Illumination entry. You know, the Despicable Me and that. You
Yeah.
know, the other Illumination knows how to make a entertaining romp.
Absolutely.
Shall we say?
Yeah.
Um,
And me just goofing on the fact that all of the major cities in the world have been included in this thing, including Seattle.
Yeah.
how do you think that they chose those places?
Okay, well,
Well-
Seattle is Washington is where their headquarters is located. For
Richmond is right outside, yes.
North of America.
Sorry, Redmond is right outside.
Nintendo of America.
Yeah.
New York is where they have a store.
Yeah. It is all New York
Right.
is also like one of the largest, if not the largest city in North America.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah. And then Vancouver, because Richmond.
I mean, yeah, it's close by, but also in Canada, your options are generally Vancouver, somewhere in Ontario,
Yeah.
and
Maybe Montreal sometimes.
Toronto.
maybe
Yeah.
Montreal, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be Toronto or Vancouver.
Yeah. And,
I know because I lived in a place that was between Edmonton and Calgary, and any summer event that happened went to one of those or didn't go to them at all.
things I think that
My
we
parents
didn't,
wouldn't let me go.
because we didn't talk about it in the after show. Because when I was looking up, Seattle has like, how many is it again? It's Metro Seattle is like 500,000 or 600,000 people. It's not in the millions. It's that all the burgs surround Tacoma and Redmond and everything else. That all helps the population go up. Which then I found out was much like Vancouver. But because Vancouver proper is about 600,000 people, Surrey is about 500,000 people, and I was like, oh man, eventually Surrey's going to get so big that they're just going to take Vancouver away, just calling it the Greater Surrey area. But what was the right? So when I found Seattle on the list, I'm like, Seattle's only this big. That doesn't seem quite right. And so let's scroll up and see what's the next largest town that's not in Mexico, right? In North America. In Canada, U.S., and it was Winnipeg. Just purely by chance, Winnipeg has 700,000 people.
But yeah, again,
Purely by chance.
depending on what you define as the size of different places.
Exactly.
Yeah, wasn't Honolulu one of the other ones?
Which
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be showing it in places, why not show it in a place that would be really nice to take the roadshow to?
Well, I think the other thing is they're looking at population of Japanese speakers too.
Oh yeah, I mean
Obviously,
if you want to
Honolulu is
go
very
like
high
the
And San Francisco.
the way that makes sense, sure.
Yeah.
But that's not where I like to go first, Paul. You know that.
Yeah.
I didn't think we went there first. We're
We
already far
definitely-
way along.
We definitely didn't.
And Los Angeles makes sense because the whole Hollywood connection, obviously. So it's like you've covered kind of everything, right? Vancouver, Toronto. I mean,
All
those are
the
the
important
two big
places.
ones there, and it's like, I guess if you had more Japanese speakers in Mexico, you might put it in Mexico City, Guadalajara, whatever. Probably send it to Brazil.
I do apologize that at least one person got mentioned in the comments. Someone say even that they got annoyed, but they mentioned in the comment the thing which I didn't really think about, and I think it comes from, I guess it's sort of how we learned stuff in school. That Mexico is part of North America.
Yes.
Whereas for whatever reason, I always remember it as like North America, Central America, South America.
Yes.
But I'm pretty sure Central America doesn't actually exist.
No.
And for some reason, when I went to school, they were teaching Central America as a distinct place.
Yeah.
And then at some point, they were like, "No, that's stupid. We're not going to do that."
Yeah,
anymore.
there's north and there's if you're north of the Panama Canal or south of the Panama Canal, that's the split we're going to go with.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I brought this up a couple of checkpoints ago or chill points ago that don't forget Mexico is part of North America.
Yeah.
But like that's what happens with advertising. They say stuff like, "Ooh, all of North America," and they generally just mean USA and Canada.
Yeah. If they even include Canada sometimes as well. So.
Sometimes they say that and they don't
Yeah.
even include Canada, and that one's
Yeah.
weirder. But
Yeah.
usually they if it's U.S. only, they specifically state U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Let's move on to the CMA story.
Country Music Awards.
Yeah. No.
I don't like country music.
I had a great time with this because
Well,
every time
you-
Graham said the CMA, I just imagined the Country Music Awards taking away authority.
So this is about the Competition and Markets Authority in the UK. releasing a whatever statement, a report, and blocking the Microsoft Activision Blizzard King merger, and in a interesting way, because we've talked about this has gone sort of back and forth in various places already, and what was interesting about this is that that the Call of Duty and whether it's going to be available on Microsoft or on Sony consoles or Nintendo consoles or whatever for the next 10 years, they were like, whatever.
Oh, man,
It's not
glad,
really that big a deal.
I'm glad somebody finally said, it's not all just about Call of Duty.
And it's actually like, for a document coming out of a governmental regulation industry, I was very impressed by this report in the sense of kind of having a nuanced look at the industry. And, there was a big section of the report about like positives.
Right.
Like they do actually they see positives, and again, they don't see this big issue. And but then they have this idea which is extremely valid. And a lot of people in the comments didn't talk about how, that it's like, the cloud gaming market is very small, right? Microsoft might have
newer.
70% of it, but it's a very small market, and especially, Google dropped out and a lot of people have been trying to do it and not doing very well. But the idea that Microsoft is like, don't worry, it'll be fine.
Yes.
We've got this agreement with like NVIDIA, so we're going to give them all the stuff.
Yeah.
And these other couple of companies will give them all the stuff.
Yeah,
so we're all going to be equal.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Booster Juice? No,
And
Boosteroid.
Boosteroid, yeah.
Booster Juice was good.
I
and
don't know. I
then-
think Booster Juice getting Call of Duty on all of its locations would be really funny.
Yeah.
They should do that.
And then, but the CMA rightly pointing out that that 10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And there could very well be new players in the market in 5 years
Yes.
who won't be covered under this thing.
Yes.
It might, and maybe Call of Duty isn't the game that people will like in 5 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And whatever the new game is won't be covered under this thing. And they don't want to be like, with every new game that comes out and every company that comes out, they have,
Yeah.
they're going to have to sort of recertify it for UK thing. They're like, this is, it seemed very forward thinking.
Yeah, and I think the thing to think about, because they're looking at, if you have a phenomenal, how do I want to say it, slice, I guess, if you 70% slice of a very small emerging potential market in such that, cloud gaming, and I saw it scroll by in chat that could, so Julie Mount says, hey, that maybe that market is 1% of the total market, right? Cloud gaming is only a tiny slice of a much larger market, but of that slice, Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass has the largest chunk of that 1%. Okay. So there have been companies that have occupied a very large chunk of a very tiny piece of a much larger market. And that tiny piece can become incredibly big over time. And if the go-to for that one thing is, well, you play Xbox Game Pass. Why? Because that's where all the games are. And then that starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. If nobody else can step up and kind of get into that cloud gaming space to be like, hey, we also are offering this thing, the next thing you know, you end up with Microsoft Windows. Because that's how that happened, right? PCs were a very small chunk of the overall computer market. And all of a sudden, it's just like, well, that's what happens. And all of a sudden, dominance.
Well, and I mean, clearly Microsoft thinks it's going to be worth more than...
Absolutely.
It's going to become more than 1%. Like, they put a significant chunk of their effort behind it. So, anyway, it's an interesting... There's... this response from Activision and Microsoft being like, it's this great like oh, this is a shame, and not just for us, but it makes us sad for the people of the UK that
Right.
the UK is no longer a place for high-tech businesses to do things. That's just a real shame, And sure,
Yeah.
it affects us, but really, it makes it just we're just sad.
It's weird. It's really weird to watch, because there's like the technical side of how this all goes down, where people are like, hey, let's look at our markets and let's look at our numbers, and it's all very analytical. What the stuff that we're seeing a lot of in the news is like watching someone's D&D party try to roll high on charm. And it's just like, so we went with the tactic of, oh, it's too bad you don't like to do business. And we also went with the tactic of, hey, this editorial article on IGN doesn't put us in the top 25 PC games of all time. So we can't be doing anything right as a popularity thing. And like, just like, it's weird to watch what feels like it should be a very like easy to go by the numbers, hey, let's look at stuff and let's make our arguments, turn into just this weird human thing of maybe if we can just convince them.
There's a neat because with the CMA doing this, kind of shining a light on, cloud gaming is where I think you're going to be going with this Microsoft. Like, we think that's going to be where that is growing for you. I think there's a neat thought experiment to play with. What if in 10 years, like, we get enough out of the Xbox Series X and S, Xbox comes up with yet another console after this to be, and very much a Steam Link kind of idea console of, here's the thing, and the games are all digital. We're going to actually push that all digital thing from now on, and we're going to cloud game it, so it's going to be like this. So now you don't have to, none of the games are on your device, but we're going to make it cheaper or whatever, and that kind of thing. And what if their whole pivot ends up just being, we're going to sell you a device to play these things, so you don't have to buy a PC if you don't want one. But if you do buy a PC, you can just play them on the PC. And they just move into that because Sony doesn't have an entry for that. And Sony might be like, well, then we're going to build nothing but high-performance consoles that look like space heaters. And Nintendo's going to be like, we're going to build handheld devices for the rest of whatever. And they all carve out a little niche of the gaming market for themselves and split it up cleanly.
Yeah, I mean, Sony does have a cloud thing now, but as the numbers, the 70% thing would indicate, they're not really pushing it.
Yeah.
And I mean, the little set-top box that connects to the cloud gaming thing, it's been tried.
Yeah.
For the last 10 years.
We haven't got there.
We haven't got
infrastructure
there.
isn't there really.
But theoretically, the technology is always advancing. Bandwidth is always going up. So at some point, we'll probably get to the point where that makes sense.
They've tried, some consoles have tried in the past to go digital only. Mm-hmm. And that has not worked.
I know.
That's been something that's been pushed back on a lot. And another thing that we have that comes up a lot in conversation, especially recently, is video game preservation. And I feel like if they really wanted to push the whole cloud gaming and digital only concept, they would need to somehow be able to push the idea that those games will be around forever. Those games can be preserved, and it won't be a thing of, well, you'll move on and then stores will close down and then you won't be able to access them anymore.
And weirdly, you can come at that from the point of view of cloud gaming and say these games can be available forever. You don't have to worry about running out of, Nintendo doesn't offer repairs for the NES anymore. Right, that kind of thing. It's like when at this point, it's like you have to find people who can repair the NES. You might have to scavenge like new old parts. You might just end up with like used parts at some point. We hit a point at a certain time where these things might not be playable and whatever. But if you have a system and you devote yourself to operating like a cloud-based system that actually allows you to play games over a longer period of time, because archive.org offers a lot of cloud-based gaming for like older shareware titles and stuff like that. So you say, that might really be the very long-term future of gaming, to be like, this thing can be available to you forever as long as you're renting it. You can always rent it whenever you want. Pay up.
Yeah, I think when I look at what's going on with the whole the eShop closed down and now people can't get games, but the conversation is like, what games can you absolutely not get that you can't have because they literally don't exist in another form.
Yeah.
Or even on another system.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, nobody has really figured out the cycling, like, you know, in the same way that things like cycle off, you know, Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
That happens on like the Xbox Game Pass as well.
Yeah.
Like games are added and games are removed.
Yeah, eventually
So
end up
you
not
can't
access.
So at least at the moment, there is a slight amount of like uncertainty. You know, it's like it's not like, and they don't advertise it as you'll be able to play this forever.
Well, and I mean, it doesn't make sense for a business to even have that stuff available forever in a lot of ways, especially in a monetary sense. But the idea that I feel like when you have people living through the thing where they're like, oh, everything closed down and I can't get this anymore. Even with Netflix, because there are people who are seeing that where they're like, the show that I thought would be around forever got taken off of Netflix or off of this other streaming service, and they never made physical media of it or it available in other places. And now I can't access it anymore. And I feel like when you have that stuff constantly going on in people's memories, it's harder to push a... not like cloud gaming even, but a digital-only console. Right. Where you have people who really do want to be able to access that for a long time or have the ability to feel like they can.
God, you reminded me of two things. I don't know which one I want to talk about. I'm going to start with the first one. I remember a dream of the 1980s. Do you remember the Death Star? We were all sold this idea of the Death Star.
The Star Wars thing?
Not the Star Wars Death Star. They just called it a Death Star because they were like, well, it's a big satellite in space like the Death Star, right? Okay. But what they meant was it was the 500 channels and nothing's on type idea of everything that's ever been made by mankind will be on, they'll be on every channel. It'll be playing all the time.
It'll be available, right.
You'll always have it available. We were sold this idea that will be the last step, is that a show gets made, it gets made available on satellite, and you'll be able to tune in at some point and just be able to watch that show. And then they did that. Netflix came along and was like, we're going to gather every show and we're going to make it available to everybody.
It turns out from a technical point of view, that's actually pretty easy to do. Yeah. It's just the licensing. That
I mean, they had to wait 40 years to get their kind of idea.
Understand why. Okay, I understand the idea you're telling me about. Yeah. I don't understand why you would call a thing like that the Death Star.
That is just poor marketing is what that is.
Again, I am a child of the 80s, and this is what we called it. So
okay, I've never heard of this. I'm interested to hear more.
Yeah. And so there was that idea of like, what if we could just gather all this stuff in one place, and you just pay for access to it like you would for cable or satellite, and you just have access. And then Netflix solved that problem, and everyone's like, yes, this is amazing. That's what we've wanted the entire time. I pay you $10 a month. And maybe that is quite low, but I pay you $10 a month to have access to everything that was ever made ever. And now Netflix is even like, yeah, but also we're going to lose rights to this stuff. We're pulling it offline. Or Disney's made their own Death Star, and like everybody's got their own Death Star now kind of idea. And I think bringing back that terminology is a great idea because it kind of really points out how it's like these things are killing the media market in a lot of ways. But
what happened? Death Star provided Alderaan with just too many channels.
Yes.
That's what caused the explosion.
Just like instantaneous.
Everyone was like, too much content.
Yep.
Okay, what's the other thing?
The other thing was talking about how this comes back to my previous thought as well about like maybe Microsoft's long game plan is, hey, making an Xbox loses us money. Having a platform is makes us money. But making a console loses us money. Like they're like, having Xbox, having mind share in the marketplace, having people want to be loyal to this, having people want to play on my Xbox, like that kind of idea, that ultimately makes us money because it's like we have a standard whatever and people come to it and make games from it and whatever. But making the hardware loses the money. And transitioning that to be like, Xbox is now what we call our entertainment and game service that is also available on Windows. I'm like, I see the line they're drawing, especially with Microsoft Azure and everything else. It's like I see the line where they're like, we own all these studios, we own all their games, and we make them available anywhere that we make the Xbox brand available. And that could be on the home console you buy, that could be on Windows. And I'm like, and at some point, you're going to scrub this console away. And you're just going to be like, Steam. You're going to just be like, get on this thing, put it on your PC. You can build your own PCs. You can do whatever you want. Windows has always been a thing, so you're just going to kind of keep doing that. And I think that in a way that's like, if they're aiming for that, it's probably not a bad idea, because it's not like the Xbox brand, the Xbox studio idea is losing them money either, just the manufacturer of the consoles. And if they came into an eye of like the bottom line, they're going to be like, well, then axe that console.
My understanding for video game consoles has been that the console itself is generally, like, you can tell it technically loses money because they have to sell it at a loss. But the whole point is that you buy it and then people are in your ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so you're making money on the games themselves, which we know, especially now, is not necessarily true because games are bloated and way overproduced and a bunch of other things. And
everyone's losing money.
Yeah. It doesn't, the plan for this industry doesn't make sense anymore. And the only reason I even knew that was potentially a thing was because I was told that Nintendo sells their stuff at a profit. Nintendo makes their consoles so that they still make money off their consoles.
Yes.
When they sell them.
And I guess
I'm like, sure, I guess they could look at their stuff and be like, oh, let's X the Xbox. But if they're making that's not where you consider your value from it, right? How many people own an Xbox that are using it to get Game Pass? How many people are using it to buy games and play on? As long as that's doing well enough on that end, there's no reason for them to actually cut that off.
And we know that and we know though that the idea that that didn't work. The idea of digital only sales, selling only through our store, selling only through a cloud gaming rental agency, essentially like a subscription service to just get access to all the games. We know that initially that kind of thing didn't work. We had so much pushback for like earlier the Xbox One. I think they were going to try with no disc and.
Yeah, but I mean,
it was
it's
one of them.
But that's shifting.
Yeah. Like it's they just realized they had to do it a little slower.
Yeah, and if they take their time a little bit more, I'm like, that's why I feel like we'll see one more iteration of the Xbox come out that will be very heavily leaning on this idea of digital whatever, but you can get your games maybe physically still. And then I think that might be the last one because enough of people have kind of pushed over there to be like, we're targeting that group.
Well, and I mean, for a couple generations now, consoles and PCs have been kind of merging anyway, right? Mm-hmm. As consoles get more expensive, then the hardware inside a console is becoming more and more sort of commodity hardware.
Right.
The difference between a PC and a console is more about like one is designed to be in the living room attached to the TV versus on your desk. Like that's in terms of capabilities, theoretically they can all do whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't usually have a word processor.
In terms of what PlayStation does,
yes,
where you have to still download everything off the disc in order to play it, I don't understand why bother with physical media for them.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah,
part of the reason I like buying physical for Switch is that it doesn't take up my memory space.
Yeah, playable straight off the cartridge. The only thing you need memory space for is for save data and updates and DLC. But it definitely has changed because I didn't understand that either when it comes to the PlayStation and the Xbox to be like, you use this thing as essentially a physical dongle as a means of verifying you still own the game. And I'm like, that is weird. But I guess it also makes sense, right? The pushing of the idea of that push people to digital. I'm like, yeah, I see that's kind of what's happening. So,
speaking of video games, which I guess is
the point of the show.
Thank goodness. Yeah, that was
it's
a
segue that basically works for any story.
Mm-hmm. Good to have some basic ones.
Yeah. Nintendo is going to be at Gamescom.
Yes.
Not specifically to spite E3.
No.
but
Probably
it's still
not.
kind of funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a very important question. We're a video games show. Can we expense going to Gamescom?
In Cologne, Germany.
Sure, why
Cologne-
not?
Cologne. It's 4 letters.
We keep going to all these-
C-O-L-N, and I'm like, everyone spells it Cologne as C-O-L-O-G-N-E.
I'm
And I'm
just-
like, is it
I'm
just
just
There's
Cologne?
saying-
like extra
you know,
syllables in
Yeah.
there.
We go to all these magic related things, and I don't care about that. But can we go to the can we go to the video game ones?
Probably not.
I mean, we go to the video game ones. We have done PAX so many times.
Can I go to one of the cool video game ones
think
in
I-
a different
Ooh.
country?
Oh, that's spicy out of
Ah.
nowhere.
What?
Ouch to PAX.
You
Well,
mean
PAX is fine.
you want to go to a con with a different feel that is one we haven't been to before, outside of the branding that we have always been to. We've been to PAX's lots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, unless I get to go to PAX Australia for once, that'd be nice.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I
mean,
mean, going to
If the folks from Gamescom want to reach out to us and invite us to come,
absolutely.
I think there
Then-
would be many of our fans in that region who would love it if we went.
we
Yeah.
do have there's a substantial contingent of German and European Loading Ready Run fans.
Who
It's true,
definitely know how to speak English, which is a relief to us.
and I mean, to be fair, I am basing a lot of that on just the amount of chocolates and candies that they send us in mail time. But I'm assuming that represents a good chunk of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I go to Tokyo Game Show too?
I mean, yeah, if we could
Can we do that one?
go to TGS, that would be a lot of fun. I mean,
Any of these are good.
we would. As I've always said, we're willing to do any convention as long as the convention is willing to actually pay for the travel and the accommodations.
Yeah, but I don't believe anyone knows who we are.
Let's not say we'll do any convention.
Oh,
As
there.
long as they're
No, there
willing to-
are a few I'd probably.
We're willing
skip.
to consider any convention.
Yeah, okay. I mean, there's that furry con in the Midwest that I'm kind of like, I would totally go to that if they can scratch, and I don't know why they would bring us. But yeah,
FurryCon is not the it's not the worst kind of convention
Oh, I
I can
see,
imagine
yeah.
inviting. I can imagine being like, well, now you have to come.
okay. I mean, there was that Adult Expo in Las Vegas, which
Yeah.
looks like a
I
lot
mean,
of fun
I don't want to
too,
go to
but
like
yeah.
the GOP convention or anything like that.
Oh, that's a good point. Yes, I would go to the adult, like the BDSM conventions and stuff in Las Vegas, to be like, I'm here, and what's gonna happen? Jesus. But there are certain other conventions.
You know
I'm
what?
not interested
I
in
would
going
I would
to.
totally go to a stamp convention. That could be interesting
Yeah.
once.
I do like especially in the first few years when PAX was smaller, they would often be sharing the convention center with other conventions.
Oh.
And so you would do the thing where you would there'd be just huge groups of cosplayers and stuff, and then there would be and also there's a banking convention going on.
Sure,
And
yeah.
there's all these business people walking by being
So, Paul,
what?
Paul, I have to tell you, we've gone to Otafest a lot, which is a convention in Calgary that happens generally during May Long.
Right.
During the May Long weekend, there's also always some sort of sports event going on, and the best part is you sometimes can't tell if the sports people are cosplayers or not.
Yeah, because
Because there's
enough.
so much sports anime.
It's true, right? So yeah.
You're like they're
It's like the hair is the only way you can tell.
They're that
Yeah.
team from that volleyball anime, right? No, I think they're from the Prince of Tennis thing, but it's that American team that they're cosplaying. It's like I don't get it what it
Yeah.
is, and they're just like, who are these weirdos?
There was one time we went to I think Animathon or one of the Edmonton things, and I went to check into the hotel, and a football team was in the same hotel, and I was in the elevator with a bunch of them, and it was the scariest moment of my entire life.
they're
I
all,
was just
over 6 feet,
They are
and-
bigger than me, and I am the nerd. This is weird and unsettling.
Were they high schoolers, or was this
no,
the
this
CFL?
was a proper
Oh, this is the CFL.
They were
Nice.
huge,
I realized that
and in a tight space. That's scary.
I realized that this was at the hotel, so that they would have been just going to their rooms, so they wouldn't have been in full uniform.
No, they were in full uniform,
But
they
I'm
were
imagining
wearing
I'm imagining
you could
Heather
tell.
just in an elevator with 10 football players in full linebacker
Yeah,
outfit, all
Yeah.
just standing there.
I mean, I would appreciate it in the sense of having an army, but it's just a weird moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
Also,
imagine.
I saw a thing go by that says, "Yeah, we don't kick furries here. We don't punch down anybody here. If we can, I mean, the people who deserve it, the people who try to take away people's power, I don't like them very much. But yeah, I like furries. I think they're great.
I'd punch a Nazi.
Yeah.
And also, as
I don't know if I might hurt myself.
as folks
I'll wear a glove.
as folks in the chat pointed out, many pro athletes are in fact huge nerds.
Yes, and also probably furries.
Oh, absolutely. But I don't know any of these people, and they're larger than me, and I'm in a small
Yeah.
confined space. There's
So-
like a lot of anxiety things going on there.
We've done a couple of Magic things with, there's Chris Cluey, who's a football player.
Yeah.
Is also a big. Then there's a couple other football players that are big Magic guys.
Yeah, and like World of Warcraft, and they do other and play
Yeah.
D&D and stuff like that. And I like to imagine actually now that basically all sports teams are actually just full of guys who, like in Ted Lasso. And like we're playing for AFC Richmond. They're just some of them are very bright, some of them are not so bright. They're all pretty good natured.
You've got a lot of downtime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to find things to do. So yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry, I was just thinking about that last episode.
Yeah.
Speaking of things to do in your downtime, you could buy some CS:GO skins.
Oh God, you could do that. Yeah, or you could pay your rent.
Or both.
Or, I don't know, just play the game without modifiers, I suppose.
I feel
Yeah.
It's not like any of these things, like stickers and stuff. They're all cosmetic,
Yeah.
right? They're not.
Oh, yeah,
they don't
yeah.
like give a boost to.
Not only are they
bullets or
cosmetic,
something, right?
but it's a first-person game, so you can see the gun, but there's also like outfits, but you can't really see those.
Yeah.
yeah,
Only other people.
I kind of think it's neat to have a skin pattern that has many iterations of it.
Oh yeah, that they're randomly.
Because that idea of like you have something that's like something
it's sort of-
else, but it because of like
it's sort
whatever
of a
effect it's
like a fractal thing.
it's
I guess.
different.
Yeah.
like that's kind of interesting.
And then you have moments where pattern 909 happens to look like genitals, and then everyone's like, now it is worth money. And I feel like rolling the dice on random patterned skins feels like, okay, I'll go buy something for $1.50, and then I'll see if I can make something filthy out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. This story kind of made me sad.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like
yeah,
more so than the other one. It's just, especially when we actually like show the picture.
Yes.
yeah.
And it reminds me of just like it's like drawing a pair of boobs with parentheses
oh,
And
yeah.
putting the dots in me, you're like, oh no, boobs.
or something. Like it's just like, really, you're that hard up. This is what you want. This is worth it while, I guess. Okay, sure.
I drew a terrible oval with a circle in it. Oh
Yeah.
no, so dirty.
So if
I
anyone
know.
missed the story, the pattern 909 arranges itself on the back of a specific pistol so that it looks like an artist's low res rendition of a vulva. It's
Yeah.
just line, circle at the top.
And
Okay.
it's like,
Julia Mon just drew it for you. Thank you.
and it's like mirrored,
Yeah.
I guess, because how the pattern
Yeah,
is.
I mean, I feel like it's what's sadder is the fact that it's like I can stick these extra stickers on here,
And make
and
it
now
worth
now it's technically worth more, and I'm like, I
wonder if you get to.
what? No,
I wonder if you get to place the stickers, or whether the stickers like
maybe.
just go on the same place on every gun.
I mean, for what we've shown for images so far, it just kind of looks like they're very like.
What I thought was interesting with the first story we did, the $400,000 stickers on the AK or whatever it was, the way they were positioned, I was trying to make sense of what I was looking at. I'm like, wait, do these chunks that are in the gun? Because people are like, oh, they're hollow stickers. I'm like, does that mean that they actually make the part of the gun look holographic? Like it actually like gives you the wireframe like through a cool blue
No, I don't
looking
think
kind of
so.
like Cortana looking thing.
I think it's just like a holographic
But
sticker.
but the way it was laying across the gun, I was like, it really does look like it to my eyes. It fooled me into thinking that, oh, it's giving you like a wireframe view of the gun instead, and if you put these on, it makes the gun look like it has hollow pieces on it, like HOLLOW instead of HOLO,
yeah,
right?
I mean,
No.
to be
But no.
honest, if you could put stickers on your gun so it kind of makes it look like parts of your gun are disappearing and stuff, that'd be really neat. That's an interesting effect, but
Hey, that would be cool.
I don't think that's what they do.
yeah. I just was thinking it would be funny to get that skin and then put a sticker on the back of it, so that people can't even see the thing that they bought the sticker.
I mean,
for,
I also just find it weird to go buy stuff on a. This isn't even a third-party market, is it? It's like some sort of weird.
There are third-party markets.
Yeah, I know there are third-party markets, but like.
But it's sort of semi-official.
Like, I'm going to buy this digital thing that's only good in this game.
Yeah.
For a lot of money because I look cooler. I don't know, like, but it feels a lot more like it's. These are people who are buying it because it might be worth more if I buy it and I own it and then I can resell it, as opposed to I actually want this thing and wouldn't it be cool if I had it?
I mean, it's part of the reason why there's been talk about this story in relation to NFTs, because even though this isn't NFTs, it's got all the trappings, which is great because it illustrates that the like NFTs have all this stupid stuff, plus they've got the extra NFT stupidness on top of it.
Yeah.
And we don't even need that to have stupid things.
No, we're really good at
all the actually like marginally interesting aspects of NFTs, in terms of the in-game stuff that was that you can like transfer back and forth and invest in or whatever.
Yeah.
Plus all the things about people buying stuff just so they can resell it and trying to make money off of it.
Yeah.
That was all handled totally fine with just a database.
Yes.
Yeah. I just kind of I wish we lived in a society that didn't involve I'm buying things to make more money off of it.
Yeah.
I can understand buying things because you want to use it, because you and even wanting to take good care of your things and having it in good condition because you would like those things to last a long time. But the whole I don't even care about this object, but I'm buying it because I can maybe get like a couple $100 more. I do not like.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting thing actually. I learned in the last little while from researching this story and the last CS:GO story. I didn't know CS:GO skins do in fact age.
Like they get age marks and stuff on them?
Yeah, like as they are used in the game, they get there's sort of a overlay that like they get more kind of crudded up and stuff. And so a more pristine skin is worth more because it means it's been used in the game less.
Yes. So part of me thinks that's really cool because it's like that's a neat thing, but at the same time I'm also like it's a digital thing. Why would it get wear and tear?
Also, it's kind of the opposite to how firearms work in the real world. Is that if you give somebody an old gun, and then you get an old gun and you strip the bluing off it, people lose their goddamn minds because they're like, you stripped all the bluing off of the gun. It was perfectly good. It had amazing patina. Okay.
All right. Back in a sec.
All right.
Paul's leaving. You know what that means. Beach, what anime have you enjoyed the most this season?
Oh God.
So far. What's your favorite right now? What's your favorite thing we've been watching right now? Just the two of us. I don't want to know about the stuff you've been watching on your own. Yeah, just out of what we've been watching.
I mean, Oshinoko was probably the most affecting thing that we watched recently, but we need to watch a couple more episodes of that.
The Weird Idol one?
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, so we watched Endo and Kobayashi live,
That's really good. We just finished it.
It was really good.
Oh, that was really good.
If you have to
thank you whoever told Beach he had to watch it because I like that one.
It's the Tsundere Liselotte. It's about two people who play a video game, and they realize while they're playing it and they're providing live commentary to the stuff that's going on in this visual novel, that the main male character, who you don't play, he's just a guy in the game, but he's the main capture target.
He's the easy path.
Yeah, he can hear everything that they're saying, and then he can start talking back to them as well, and they can start having conversations. Yeah. And so everything I've just said, you're like, oh, that's really an interesting idea, perhaps. Let's just go with me on this. But this show just goes wherever it wants, and I was really impressed because I'm like, it didn't try. You get the kind of sense of, yes, I know how it's supposed to end,
Well,
but
sure.
the path,
But-
the journey
but-
is the point,
but
and the
it's
journey
really
is so good in 12
and
episodes.
It's fun to watch them use terms like tsundere and watch this character be like, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
And then he's just like, ooh, I get it, but he's saying it wrong.
Yeah, tsundere, you know, like
And-
RAIS.
And yeah, like,
it's all very French.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
It's also it kind of falls into that whole like dating game with the villainous
Yeah.
who's not really evil.
Yep.
Kind of
She's just
mentality,
misunderstood.
except it's done from a different perspective,
Yeah.
which I really like because I find once we get into a genre that tropes get really head set in, they get a little boring for me.
Yeah, and we were like, by the end, we were cheering as much as the two real-world characters in the game playing the game, but cheering for different reasons because the show just felt like, I'm going to give you, here's a fun thing I'm going to give you, and I'm going to give you this other fun thing, and I'm going to give you this other fun thing, and it's like, oh, that's so good. So,
Well, and it's fun
Yeah.
to discover why Lislot is tsundere in the first place.
Oh, yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
one of those
It's all
like
backstories.
It's one of those like I was a kid and an adult said something to me, and now
changed my life forever.
I'm following the rules. I'm following the rules super hard. Yeah,
God, what else
was
have we
good.
watched together? We were watching A Galaxy Next Door, which is just very kind of...
That one's cute.
It's just cute, yeah.
Loaf and Skip.
Skip and Loafer.
Skip and Loafer.
Also impressing
really
me.
like that one.
A different kind of take on a high school romance anime that feels really believable.
Well, and it's also drawn in a way that's not shiny.
Yeah, and I love the way
Which is, I really like the art style for that
Yeah.
one. It feels kind of classic, but still
yeah.
more modern.
and gives me definite like Kimi ni Todoke vibes.
Oh, super Kimi
but
vibes.
It's very light and it's fun and it's fast. Like it's like there does not seem to be room for miscommunication in this show in much the same way that there's not room for miscommunication in Kimi ni Todoke.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're gonna let kids be smarter than that, which has just been really nice because it like most shoujo anime is very much like, oh, I misunderstood a thing, so I have to pine about this for a while, and it's like, or you could just actually talk to them, or you could just be a character that actually sees through the bullshit a little faster.
Well, and it was nice to see because there's that one girl, the blonde, who everyone's kind of like, oh, she's really good looking, and
Yeah.
therefore she's probably snobby.
She can look good in
and she's
anything.
not.
Yeah.
And the one girl who's trying really hard is actually quite snobby.
Yeah.
But you kind of like if it feels like if she just took a few minutes to realize that the reason she's being that way is because she's afraid of everybody else
Yeah.
being able to one up her, that she'd probably tone that down.
Yeah, and a lot of that is based on your own person. Like I'm watching Yuri Is My Job, which the first episode is like I'm dropping this like the hottest potato. I was like not going to be a thing, and then the second episode I'm like I will watch that and I'm like okay, well there's more going on here now, but I'm not into it. And I watched the third episode and I'm like oh, there's actually a lot more going on here than I thought. Oh yeah, coincidences and stuff. But it's very shoujo manga. Like it's shoujo manga making fun of shoujo manga, which is and just like it's been wild. So,
Thank you for listening to our show inside a show.
Yes.
Paul's back now. I guess we'll get back to gaming
It's our
news.
pop-up podcast.
I was gonna say, it's like I feel like we're not talking about video games anymore.
Weirdly, no.
No.
That's what happens when you leave the room.
You
now.
weren't even totally out of the room, and I was just like, anime time.
Video games. Got like an hour left. We can cover video games in an hour.
And the one little extra thing is in the coming up we talked about 1010 Studio
Making what everyone has always wanted.
Funko Pop.
Funko Pop branding, which I mean for the making fun of people have shall we say complex opinions about Funkos.
Yeah.
There are some Funko Pops that are good, and all of the ones that are good do not have eyes on them. They've got masks, or they've got cool shades or something, but they do not have those eyes.
Or they go to like, I mean, I liked the set of Magic the Gathering ones we have because they really go hard into being like, yeah, they have to look like a Funko Pop, but a Johnny looks like a Johnny. You can tell that's who it's not just a dude with eyes, right? But
Yeah.
But I think
Nendoroids are definitely where it's at.
yes, I think it's interesting that the time had finally come for Funko to make a game, as opposed to you would have assumed that by now they would have found a way to make a game like years before this.
And of course, Funko. I mean, if you want to make a game that's sort of, mashing together these different properties and stuff. I mean, Funko's doing licensing the Funko stuff is sort of, I guess, makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to make a game like that, then getting the people who were previously working for Traveler's Tales who did the Lego game makes sense. And the game looks a lot like, it's got that sort of third-person adventure style of the Lego game, which the Lego games are very
well received.
Well received, yeah. I mean, I think the only criticism I've heard of the Lego games is that there's a lot of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is not really that much of a criticism. It's just that they were popular, but there were a lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean, they were really the Lego games that I've tried. What made them fun was that they were reenactments of movies I'd seen, but in Lego. So
And
when you
making
had
goofy.
Pirates of the Caribbean and that opening sequence where people are dead and hanging, they replicate that, but it's like a guy hanging off the rope and like waving and shit because it's a kid's game still, and it's kind of goofy and fun to see a thing that you've already seen kind of a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through a different lens. Yeah.
We did not talk about the Funko dump stuff. That was a thing that happened, though. I had heard about where they dumped a bunch of their product and they garbaged it because they wouldn't. My understanding is that they wouldn't even like dock the price on it to sell it. They were like, no, it's not.
Did that just happen recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, like last week or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was not aware of
It's
that.
not- that's
into the
not
thing.
great.
Yeah. So.
I mean, we typically make fun of Funko Pops just because there's so many of them. You go into like an EB Games and they're just a Funko Pop store now, and I'm sorry, GameStop.
Yep.
It's not EB Games here anymore.
I just kind of like the term the Funko dump.
You hear about the Funko dump? What?
Now I'm just imagining like a Funko Pop version of the like emoji turd.
I mean, I think
It might already exist. I don't know.
saw the last picture because I see pictures for them quite often because I follow a couple things on Twitter for like, oh, these things are on sale now. And the last one I saw was a Funko Pop of Blockbuster.
Well, that's weird. That's
Yep.
weird.
So they're making like it's almost making like the like whatever they call like the tans or the sort of anthropomorphized.
It was like a VHS cassette looking thing with eyes on it because they still put eyes on it, and it said Blockbuster, and it was odd.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. It's just kind of odd. It's just not one of the ones I was expecting to see.
Hey, kids, remember brands? Hey, 40-year-old
You know,
kids, remember brands?
The thing that I thought was one of the most depressing things ever was I think Netflix made a show about essentially a Blockbuster going out of business and how this spunky group of people was going to try and save
Yeah.
their business.
Yeah, there's like...
Isn't that a little weird that that's Netflix?
Yeah, it is a little weird.
I mean, it's basically Netflix like dunking on
A little
Blockbuster.
bit. Yeah, which
Yeah.
is funny because the way that Netflix has kind of been taking a shit kicking in the last several years, thanks to all the other services, like you're kind of foretelling your own future, perhaps. We'll see what happens.
What's next?
All right. We talked about the Microsoft acquisition, Activision acquisition, but there's another long-standing ChillPoint story that we keep having random updates to,
Raid Shadow Legends?
and that's the Epic Apple court case.
Oh, is there
thank
actually
Christ.
more like actually more stuff that has happened?
Appeals.
Yeah, things kind of churning their way through various things.
I figured it wasn't really working out for Epic anymore since they stopped advertising and trying to get fans to do their fights for them.
Thanks, everybody in chat who keeps saying Sonic's 30th anniversary.
I mean, that's something we like as well. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has affirmed the ruling that Apple did not violate antitrust law. So there was a ruling last year that against Epic, and Epic attempted to appeal it. So they're all the way up to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I kind of like this this from the ruling here. There is a lively and important debate about the role played in our economy and democracy by online transaction platforms with market power, the court wrote. Our job as a federal court of appeals, however, is not to resolve that debate.
Yeah.
Nor could we even attempt to do so. Instead, in this decision, we faithfully applied existing precedent to the facts. So they're like, this is kind of an interesting discussion. It's not one that we should be having in this particular court right now.
Yeah.
So go away. This was, no change to what was previously thing. So, the big deal, we talked about this a little bit when this was going through. It's the big deal here is the jockeying for because to say that Apple has a monopoly, you have to define what the market is.
Yes.
And Apple keeps saying that the market is mobile devices.
Yes.
Of which they do not have a monopoly.
Correct.
And Epic says the market is the Apple App Store or iOS app, iOS things, which of course Apple does have a monopoly because you can't put anything else on.
True.
Mm-hmm. And so it's one of these things where it's like, whoever sort of succeeds in getting that aspect, whoever succeeds in getting the definition they want
affirmed,
kind of automatically wins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of obvious who should win once the definition has been established. And so far, the courts have ruled with Apple that the market is mobile devices as a whole, not.
And I'm inclined to agree, because to me it's like, if I don't want my iPhone, then I will go buy an Android. I just bought a new phone. And I've been asking other people around the office, is like, hey, we have the employee purchase plan, like the employee phone plan thing through TELUS. Does anybody want a phone to go with? It's like, oh, well, I'm on this, or I'm on that, or I'm finding out from other people. It's like, do you want to switch? It's like, no, I don't want to switch. And that's fine, because it's like, you're used to a thing. You want to do it that way. Mm-hmm. And so, but that thing is like, it is the kind of Sony PlayStation versus Microsoft Xbox kind of thing as well, where you're like, hey, what one are you on? Can you swap back and forth? Well, you don't really swap back and forth midstream, but you wait for the next one to come out, the next generation, and be like, I might swap then.
Well, I mean, I've seen people try to extrapolate this discussion into other things, because it's like, as Paul said, what's your definition? It's a Switch. Nintendo monopolizes its own device.
Yes.
But most people look at that as out of all video games.
Right.
So why would you ever say, well, Nintendo has monopoly power over access to their own device? And it's like,
well, yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
If that's the whole market, if that's the case, if you count every individual maker of a device being that's their own market, and so that, you know what, us talking about that doesn't add anything to a conversation that's been going on for a long time, doesn't it?
But
it does not.
I do think that it is interesting that Apple versus Epic has led to these other discussions.
Yeah.
Again, like that's also why I was like, was there actually any news? Because like I see people actually say things in our comments sometimes where it's like, oh, they didn't cover the newest Apple Epic whatever, and you go and you look and it's like, yes, there was a response where one said, is not. What are we going to talk about with that?
What's the funny angle?
We'll be back in 6 months with the is too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we're kind of at the point where we do have to wait for like some sort of weird resolution, if we even get one, or for something really weird to show up.
And if this is gone to the Court of Appeals and they've said, okay, we affirm the original ruling, Epic then has the option, I think, to say, hey, we want the Supreme Court to hear this. I think that's how it works in the States, is like then once you're through appeals, you can be like, we want the Supreme Court to hear this thing. I think they can still do that in civil matters. I think they absolutely do, and then the Supreme Court gets to decide whether or not they want to actually they want to hear the case or not. So they might not even get a chance to be heard, and
they
at
go,
that point it's
only
done.
God can judge us.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
Like when we went over those stories, it's like, oh, this thing has started to occur. Isn't that interesting? Oh, these are the things that Epic is doing to actually try to garner support from its base of people in their fight. Oh, hey, look, the court has accidentally given away
Revealed a bunch of
information for video games they weren't supposed to, and everyone needs to pretend they didn't see it now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, those were like the interesting parts where we could actually talk about a thing.
Yeah. Now, yeah. Bayonetta.
Hey, I know her.
It's a game, and the last couple Bayonetta games were, sort of in the mold of the sort of Ninja Gaiden, Devil May Cry kind of, beat 'em up shooting.
Yes.
Very very intense. Although notably they did also have excellent
One button accessibility.
accessibility options.
Yeah.
But they were quite they could be quite hardcore gamer type games.
Yeah.
Okay.
With all the combos and fancy
Game
stuff.
games, got it.
Yeah. Now Bayonetta Origins is a little less so.
Yes.
It's a bit different.
It's kind of a fun cartoony game.
I would agree.
It's adorable. But there's just been a presentation from Platinum Games and the games director saying that you can saying that they are now going to tell people about the Platinum Code, which apparently is actually a code that they've used in other games, sort of like the Konami code or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which is up, down, left, right, X, B, Y, A. And if you do that, you will unlock the Forbidden Tale, which is the highest difficulty mode, which normally is only unlocked after you beat the game.
You can just do it now.
But you can. It's like, you know what? If you want to punish yourself,
if you really want to do it,
you want your game to be more harder. In Forbidden Tale mode, you'll be unable to use the game's help settings. Enemies will be more numerous, and they will inflict more damage.
I love that the first thing in the list is you cannot use the game's help settings. Because most people will be like, well, who cares? I don't know how to play a video game. I don't need help. It's like, this game's, the book has a lot of stuff it's talking about. Teaching you how to do moves, teaching you how to do different stuff. It's kind of essential to learning enough about the game.
I want you to go to go into the help settings, and rather than it just being grayed out, you go in there and it's no.
Yeah. It's just the face appears, it's locked. It's
yeah.
It's you think you're so great, Mr. Gamer Man? Oh. Fine, you don't get no help.
I would love it if your demon ate the book.
Can we have that? Can we have that as an option in Skyward Sword?
Oh, just
with Fee or Fi or whatever.
I see. I hear saying Fee.
Fee.
Yeah.
Because in the HD remake, they've toned down on that. She'll still say all her things, and you can push a button for her to come out and say them. They're very unhelpful. But I would love to ask her for help and have her come out and be like, "You chose the option that said no.
Yeah.
So no."
Yeah. Yep.
I'd be for that. I think that'd be funny. I'd be annoyed. But it'd be funny.
Yeah.
Cassette Beasts.
Neat looking game.
Is cool game. It actually, I think it just came out on.
It's been on Steam for a while, just coming out on Switch.
Yeah, Switch and Game Pass. So it's this is a great this is a interview or a thing about the saying, how can two people make a monster collecting game that isn't just Pokemon, that does stuff Pokemon doesn't do.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to sort of think about what Pokemon doesn't, what Pokemon doesn't do, what they can. They do what Pokemon don't do.
Yeah, because like Pokemon is you are a trainer and you get monsters and you collect all the monsters, or you at least raise them and train them and do whatever. But all the combat, all the interaction of those kind of things is done via the monsters as the weapon aspect.
Right.
And so this game is more about we want you to become that monster, right? There's like there's an element of that, isn't there?
A little bit
Yeah.
from what I've seen in the trailer, because it's you bring a blank cassette tape with you, and you're technically copying the monster, and then it looks like you transform into them.
So what's pretty cool is there are 120 monsters or cassettes in the game. And they can, every single one of them can fuse. Boop, boop, boop.
I hope they call these mashups.
that
I think
would be good.
they call
Yeah.
them fusions, I think.
Okay.
Oh.
Mashup would have been good. Yeah.
Mashup would have been fun.
And so they actually developed a
Procedurally generated.
procedurally generated thing. So they basically animated they animated each version of it, and then they have a system that basically can sort of procedurally generate because there's like 14,000 theoretical combinations.
Yeah.
And in fact, apparently you can like this is Spring Heal and Palm Bomb turns into Spring Bomb, but you can also have like Bomb Heal. Like you can
You can have Palm Bomb and Spring Heal and be like, well, now you have a Palm Heal. It's like, well, wait, aren't they the same? Yes, but you combine them in a different order.
Yeah.
So they became a different thing.
procedural systems.
So who's the top and who's the bottom?
That's where you find out, I guess. Our procedural system animates every monster twice. The second time is the fusion form. It's as if every monster has an action figure and a Lego version where you can swap the parts around. The fusion system mixes all the modular parts on the modular sprite version, and as a consequence, they're fully animated, have all attack animations and stuff. So that seems super neat. I like this. I like that idea.
Yeah.
They take the idea that fusions are like, this is something that other games have not done before, a Monster Tamer game that has fusions and whatnot. And then I get an email the very next, like the same day that we did ChillPoint. I get an email in my inbox being like, "Hey, check out this new Monster Tamer game that's come out that has fusions in it by a completely different company."
Yeah,
and I was
like,
like,
I don't-
okay, this might not be the newest thing.
I don't
but
know. I don't know if it's easy to say, especially just given the number of indie games that are doing kind of the monster collector fight train style.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's easy to say things like, "Oh, well, no game has ever done this with it before,"
Yeah.
because chances are good there's probably just a small game you haven't seen.
Yeah, and I think that for people who are fans of the Poke-likes, the Monster Tamer genres, the Monster Collector genres, I'm sure they will be evaluating on all these things and being able to talk about more about oh, well, this one is actually a lot like this one, or a lot like that one, or
Yeah, it's just we've had like it's like the whole conversation where it's like, oh, what does Pokemon do that we could be doing? And it's like that seems to be where a lot of people are going, though. Like the whole thing with Temtem, and there's like a couple others that were quite big in terms of getting new space. And those always delve into the fact that it's like, oh, well, we put in a harder difficulty level because Pokemon won't do that, or like a Nuzlocke thing,
because
or
Pokemon
like
won't do that.
this specific thing and whatnot, because it's things that people have wanted from Pokemon, but Pokemon's not going to do it, so we just did it.
Yeah,
and
we
it's
made our
like,
own game.
that's cool. I find it interesting that all of these games focus really hard on what our mechanics are and what our game is trying to do that this other game's not doing.
Yeah, the market
But nobody
leader.
wants to tell me what their stories are.
I mean, this in this one, the other thing he talks about that's different. That's not really a mechanical thing, but that the characters are young adults. So it's like telling a more adult story
than a 10-year-old running around.
Yeah, that it's not like I'm gonna be the best. It's a little bit more nuanced.
Though I might say that
And you can have romance options.
Sure.
There's like romance options with you travel around with a partner that you can befriend.
that
and
is the same
have
species as you,
relationships.
yes.
And so.
Yeah, not you don't have Pikachu following you around and you get to decide if you're going to kiss him or not. This is literally there's a human that also walks or whatever they are walk around with me and maybe we knock
Well, I
boots.
thought this was doing things that we wanted that Pokemon
Pokemon
wouldn't
didn't.
refuse to do.
Want to tongue kiss a Lapras? It's like, oh god.
I just like I feel like it's
It also
cool
does
that
local co-op.
it's awesome to talk about what makes a game different
Yes.
in terms of its mechanics, if it's doing something neat.
Yeah.
But ultimately, while I do want a satisfying game loop or mechanics to play with, I also generally want like a story or a drive of like, what's this about? Like I'd be willing to play all kinds of different of blank kind of game.
Yeah.
But if you're not gonna like tell me
I mean, that might
what I'm
also
getting in for,
that might also be like that might also come down to how they decide to do PR as well. That it's like, okay, we have this cool idea for a game and we build a whole story around it. We do all these other kind of things, and here's the driving factors for whatever. And all they get from people when they go to like demo it is like, okay, but it looks like Pokemon. It's like, okay, but it's not Pokemon. But it seems like it's Pokemon. And they're like, okay,
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
who talks to us just wants to know what the mechanic is. So let's show them what the different mechanic is, so that they'll want to buy our game over Pokemon.
And it's like, and I mean, Pokemon has never really been that strong on the story front anyway, right?
Yeah. Well,
it depends.
there was the one about slavery.
Black and White, that movie Black and White,
Yeah.
which also ended up having a sequel, so you could find out what what's his name was up to, which apparently was completely unintended. And there's a lot of side, like non-main story Pokemon games that have a little bit more of a focus.
Or like Pokemon XD
story
and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Those ones, but Pokemon isn't really. I feel like it hasn't really been marketed on its story.
True. I mean, they try to give you setting.
Yeah,
Sure.
setting.
Story,
Yeah,
yeah.
setting.
But I
is-
also know what Pokemon is as a known quantity. I want other people to tell me why I should care.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's an absolute.
Because I've also played a number of indie games where it's like, these have neat mechanics, but okay,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. And sometimes you can get. I mean,
I just
Miyamoto said,
wanna-
right?
I just want a hook.
Miyamoto said a video game does not need a story. That's a weird paraphrase, but that idea of like, yeah, not every game needs to have a story built into it, but sometimes story makes an excellent hook. And if you're just giving people mechanics, it's like, am I playing Tetris or am I actually playing something that's
Unpacking
narrative?
is a game that is just literally about unpacking, and it has one of the best video game stories in it.
Nice. I will take your word for that. I haven't played it yet.
You should play it.
I should play it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like unpacking is almost more like setting as opposed to actual story. But
I mean, everybody lauds Dark Souls for having its incredible story that's hidden in all its weapons and shit. I think unpacking can have the same.
Yeah, fair.
anyway,
All right, not story. It has lore. Dark Souls has no story. It has lore.
right.
I love that. Lore is what happens before the game begins. Story is what happens after the game begins.
Right, yeah. Story is what you play. Lore is
What you read.
what you read.
Do you want to smoke?
Oh, God. I hate this thing. I
Not
watched
really.
this, and I shouldn't have.
Oh, cool. Very Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
I'm impressed at how good they kind of got the initial look of it, right?
Yeah.
But don't worry, kids. Ever had this happen to you in Animal Crossing?
Yeah, the villain from...
I mean,
Kingdom Hearts?
No, I was thinking of that Pixar movie.
Moana?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to come get you in the middle of the
Tafiti
night.
is I ruined it. Yeah, Tafiti's alter ego.
anxiety for that. To be honest, that is a angle on the anti-smoking that I have never seen before.
Right.
I don't doubt that it's true, but like the rather than like cancer or whatever, it's just that like anxiety is going to keep you up at night.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, right. Technically, Moana's Disney, isn't it?
Yep.
Eh, whatever.
Because it has an I Want song in it.
They're the
It
same
has songs in it. Let's just be
thing,
honest.
basically.
Pixar is not a musical. Disney's are always musical.
I don't care. They're the same company now.
They are now the same company. You're absolutely right.
So yes. Anyway, this is a anti smoking ad from Studio Sawhorse. It doesn't actually have anything to do with Animal Crossing.
No,
they're just using the aesthetic.
It has that aesthetic.
Yeah.
They will probably not even call it that themselves.
Yeah.
Because Animal Crossing has strict guidelines about what you can use and not use for advertising using the game.
But it is impressive to see that they chose that as their aesthetic because it is so widely known at this point.
Yeah.
You know, like 10 years ago, they wouldn't have picked like New Leaf or Wild World or anything.
I think it would be really great if they went with the original Animal Crossing aesthetic.
Yeah,
there's something very charming about everything being triangle shaped.
Yeah. Wonder. Let's see if I.
Disney has princesses. Pixar has moms. Has anyone done like a Pixar mom, like where all the princesses get together and hang out? Have all the Pixar moms come together and hung out too? They need really wide chairs. What are we watching now?
It's the Scarlet Moon.
Oh, right. Yeah.
We made a song jazz thing.
As soon as I heard the first 6 notes, I knew what it was.
So you want a smooth jazz version of the Kraid theme from Metroid,
I was talking to Heather about this.
or the Tristram theme from Diablo.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a few. I'm curious to see Windmill Hut.
It's very because
it's probably Song of Storms.
Kraid was interesting because the as a pick for this is this is what it was in Gentle. What's the name of the band?
Scarlet Moon Records is the Gentle Love.
Gentle Love.
Yeah.
Is the band that is doing this.
Yeah.
Prescription for Sleep, Game Music Lullabies.
Yeah.
Volume 3.
Yes, this is the 3rd volume they've put
It's also not the only thing they've done, because I have the Celeste album, and there's like a Stardew Valley one, and there's a couple other very heavy game specific ones that they've done.
Oh, but all in the sort of like smooth jazz versions of these
Very
songs.
like
slowed down jazz.
Well, I mean, like the whole series is Prescription to Sleep or something. Like they're all very calm and
piano and
chill,
saxophone.
and they're nice as background.
This the Kraid cut that they have on YouTube is really nice, and I was talking to Heather from other than the fact that I can't listen to. So I tuned in a couple of them, and there's just certain parts where the saxophone is clipping the mic, and it's just you can hear hisses and pops, and I'm like if that's your recording, you need to do it again. But if that's your if you need to suckle the spit out of your mouthpiece, because my sax teachers give me shit about that if I didn't do that on a regular basis. You don't have spit valves on a woodwind, so you basically just have to try to get all the water out yourself. But anyway, it's interesting to me because Kraid, Metroid is supposed to be an isolating game, and it's supposed to be tense and spooky. Right, it's supposed to be like that's what you're supposed to be in this mix of whatever. You're by yourself. You're deep underground. Everything wants to kill you, and there's a tension to the game. And the Kraid theme especially has a great tension to it. And this slowing it down, I'm like, it's not just isolating, but there's a loneliness to it that people have talked about. I've watched a lot of videos. People are like, "Oh, the game feels lonely. Like Metroid feels lonely." I'm like, "Yeah, I never really felt like lonely was the word to apply to it." But when you hear the music played like that, I'm like, it is very lonely.
Usually, you're too busy, shooting stuff and shine sparking and whatever. But
this slows that idea down.
Presumably, between games, Samus has to take a nap anyway.
Yeah. And she probably feels kind of like, I'm here by myself. I don't
That's
have
how
anyone to talk to.
That's why she keeps losing all the parts of her armor between games.
Yeah, they have an entire Bandcamp listing for a bunch of the albums that they've done, and as you've said, this is volume 3. So if you go check volumes 1 and 2, they're also a variety of different game music. I found the moon theme from DuckTales, which is also slower, which is nice.
Yeah.
It's very nice, but I can't handle it because it's not the right speed for me.
Yeah, if you're very
But-
used to the original version, then yeah.
But some of the pieces are really neat to hear in that way.
Yeah, and I think it's probably more to do with the clipping I'm talking about. When I thought about it a little more, I'm like, it's probably more to do with YouTube's compression than it is to do with the mastering. Like,
Could be,
there
yeah.
might
Yeah.
actually be like the better version you can buy from their website or whatever is probably a much nicer mastered version of it. So yeah, I
Yep.
don't want to give them shit if they actually have really good recordings, but you can't get them on YouTube.
Yeah, I should see if they've done like a Hollow Knight one because there's some pieces in Hollow Knight that I really like, but I can only think about them with spinning saw blades, and they're really scary.
Tristram from Diablo, when I saw that was on the album, I was like, I need to hear this. They don't have it up anywhere, I think, but I'm like, I need to hear how you make that a sleepy lullaby, because that is like very nice, relaxing music until it isn't.
And then I think this is the last story I have here. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Wait, Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Oh, so not a survivor of Jedi,
Survivors.
but just a survivor.
Yeah.
This is the Survivor title
is this
in the Star
is
Wars
this-
Jedi
Is
series.
this the Jedi who survived? I hear
The-
a lot of them died.
The Star
During
Wars
some sort of war
The Star Wars
with
video
clones.
game naming system is all over the place.
Okay.
They just kind of rather haphazard. They name them very haphazardly. They'll be just like, this one's called Jedi Outcast. For a while it was
Jedi
like
Knight.
for a while it was like Dark Forces 2, Jedi Knight, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast,
Yeah.
Jedi Outcast 2, something else, and it's like that's not how names work.
No. But everyone was calling it. It's like everyone forgot it was called Dark Forces, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, we just called it Jedi Knight, so make it Jedi Knight 2.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which just came out, and has ostensibly been relatively favorably received, except on PC, where apparently there are some serious performance issues. But for people who can play it well, they seem to be enjoying it.
That's good.
Okay.
That's awesome news.
But one of the things that, of course, I'm always interested in is they did a big interview talking about their accessibility stuff in it,
Ah, nice.
which including, so they talk about, it's like, well, they've got standard remapping stuff, they've got subtitles, closed captioning stuff, they've got visual things, change the field of view, colorblind options.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of stuff that's starting
turning
to
off
become a
shake.
little bit more standard these days.
They've got difficult, different sort of story mode, difficult, and they've got different difficulty modes. I still the like having the difficulty modes, and then they have like Jedi Padawan, Jedi Knight, Jedi Master, Jedi Grandmaster. There's always the tricky part about naming your difficulty modes,
Yeah.
because you don't want to be like, because there's the like the Wolfenstein like, can I play Daddy? With
Yeah.
like the guy with the like soother.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, but on the other hand, you do want to like reward the people playing it on the more. You want to be like, yeah, you're playing it on the difficult mode. Great job.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind if they want to be cute and be like, oh, this is the Jedi Knight mode or the Padawan mode or whatever, because that
Yeah.
fits within the universe of what they're playing with.
Yeah.
As long as they have a description of what that even means.
What that means, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because even easy, normal, hard isn't necessarily descriptive.
Yeah. You want to go like Womp Rat, and then like Padawan, and then like Jedi Knight,
and then-
Jedi Master, and then Jedi Master missing a leg.
And also, you can switch between difficulty level
Yeah.
modes during the game,
Yeah.
as long as you aren't actually in combat, which is great. But one of the more interesting aspects they have are they've made this whole slow mode,
Okay.
which I feel like they could have a more jazzy name for it. But anyway,
Yoda mode.
yeah, which is basically like bullet time mode, like you can slow things down.
Ooh,
okay.
okay, neat.
when you want to.
Yeah, when you
Okay.
want to. And so but it's not actually, from what I understand, it's not actually like a gameplay. And maybe they're also using it as like an actual gameplay.
But it's not like Max Payne bullet time.
It's not or like a thing to solve a puzzle.
Right.
It's more. It's more. They're talking about using it as an access. Oh, it is also a gameplay thing. Oh, okay.
Okay, neat.
But they have a way that you can just turn it on. So they were like, we'll have this slow mode, and then we'll have it so people turn it on, and that will make combat, to help with combat and stuff. And then as they were doing it, they were like, we've got like jumping puzzles, and we've got other kinds of different, platforming sections and different other things. It turns out that slow mode is actually kind of cool. For like helps with all of this stuff.
Yeah, it helps with reaction times and things.
With anything that's sort of reaction time, or when you're jumping, trying to hit the right thing, and all that kind of stuff. And so you can hold down, you can slow down the action of the world in order to ease the challenges for both combat and platforming. So that's something that you can turn on.
It's a toggle, right?
I assume so. It's not just like the game will run slow.
Toggle.
Yeah.
It's just a turbo button.
Well,
that you
no,
just
I
turn
just
off.
because some games are like, oh, hold down this button and then everything will do whatever. But like if it's meant to be an accessibility feature, but you have to hold a thing down, and you don't have hand strength to hold a thing down, that means
that's
you're
not very
locked out of
useful.
your own thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's why I ask.
And so it sounds like, Jedi time manipulation thing is a long, the sort of doing bullet time or whatever is a common thing to have in some of these games. So I can imagine they'd be using it, whatever, try to get past the fan blades or something. But actually just have it available, whenever you want as an accessibility thing, just to make it a little easier, is a neat idea, and I approve.
Yeah. Good.
And hopefully they will work on the PC version to make it play like less butt. Because people were talking about running on very heavy duty, powerful machines, with very powerful graphics cards, and it's like eating all the VRAM on the graphics card and running it like 50 frames a second or something on a 4090 that should be able to just have no problem.
Whereas I hear that the one on the ones in the game consoles are running just smooth.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll fix it.
Yep.
30 FPS on a 3090. Yeah. I guess it depends on what you're looking for too. But
yeah. Speaking of looking forward to things, Zelda previews went up and review copies have been going out. So if you're trying to stay without knowledge before going into that game, now is the time to like black out your internet.
Got to set up those like filters on your accounts.
You shouldn't be on Twitter anyway, but gotta stay off there.
Yeah.
She speaks the truth.
Yeah, I saw a thing that was just a headline of like, oh, here's this thing that they did, and I kind of knew about that one already, but I was just like, I didn't want to read that. So now's the time to not be online. For like another 2 weeks.
And then you won't be online either because you'll be playing Zelda.
Yeah, but then you're safe.
I will be safe for at least the few days leading up to the thing, because I will be in Minneapolis, where they do not have internet.
Oh, really?
I made this decision on purpose. I went to the only place on earth where they do not have internet, and I'm going to say it's Minneapolis, St. Paul, in the middle of Minnesota.
I feel like you may need to do some double checking on that.
Yeah. See, so somebody has said they confirm.
Oh, well, okay then.
Yeah.
Well, they're clearly not in Minneapolis right now if they can confirm it right now.
But yes, a whole bunch of folks will be down at the Magicon Minneapolis.
Yep.
So come by and say hi.
Please do.
And because of that, there'll be no checkpoint next week. But I believe myself and Heather will be holding down the fort.
Yeah.
We
can talk about anime if you want.
Talking about stuff. We might get around to video games at some point.
Yeah, maybe we'll just talk about games that we've been playing.
Yeah.
fill in that news gap
Nice.
with fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll have to miss out on all of it.
Look, you got some anime time today that was pop up and
That's true,
unexpected, so
yeah.
I think you've gotten.
I had my bit of fun.
I gave you a fun topic.
Yeah, it was a fun topic. I liked it.
So,
You can just finish Make Monster. That's a good
We
thing,
do
too.
gotta
We
finish
should-
that.
Yeah.
thanks everybody for joining us, and we will talk to all y'all later.
Support the Patreon.
Bye.
Bye.